Hey, it's Mike again with another iPhone video this time. Got a beautiful little problem here. My horn doesn't work. Well, on this particular car, which is the 1993 Corvette, I've already replaced the actual horns, and that was successful. That worked fine. I'll show you a picture of them here. Those are horns I picked up from the auto parts store. They're a little bit different, so I had to adapt the wiring, which was no big deal, and change the mounting a little bit. You can see there's the factory mounting point, and I added my own bracket. The problem with the horns was that the actual diaphragm, the little disc that makes the sound, was completely corroded away. It was gone. The one horn you could shake and nothing but rust came out. So anyway, I replaced those and that worked fine. And then recently I started noticing that when I pressed the button on the steering wheel, nothing was happening. So I'd press really hard and move the button around a little bit. And if I was careful and I moved it just right, the horn would blow. And as another test, I lock the doors, open the windows, open the door with the inside latch, and the security system blows the horn just fine, no problem. So the issue is not the horn relay, it's not the horns themselves, it's not the ability for the car to even trigger the horn. It's the ability for the steering wheel buttons to make a connection when you press them in. And I'll show you what happened. So on my car, which is a 93, this buttons look like this. They're similar, I think, between the 1990 and the 1993. 94 through 96 C4s and 89 down to 84 C4s are different. So obviously those won't be covered here in this video. But what you have when you pull this little plastic piece off, which I'll demonstrate in a second, is these little springy pieces of, I think, brass. And what happens there is when you press down, this little dimple, as you can see in the middle there, is supposed to make contact with that little contact point. And then there's another one down here. And there's a little piece of copper or brass that goes in between the two. So as you can see on this side, that's very corroded. And so before I made this video, I went ahead and corrected the issue on the left side. And as you can hear, it works just fine. So I'll show you how to fix it on the right side. Now the first thing you have to do is figure out how to get this little plastic button off. I was really afraid of breaking it because they're like $25 online. I was even surprised you could find them. But kind of move it up and it will pop right off. And just be careful. You can see these little catches right here, these little pieces of plastic that have a little ramp and a little catch on them. You just want to be super careful not to break those off. And I've read on the forum other things that happen is that these posts, which are actually what press this mechanism in, will break off. Well, that's not the case on this car on either side, so I got lucky there. Here it is reassembled. And as you can see, one side has a wire that goes in, so be very careful with that. You don't want to break it, especially right at this point where my fingertip is. And if you pull that out ever so carefully, you can move it out of your way. And then I was just real careful to clean the underside of it, and I'll show you what it looks like. I cleaned it with some sandpaper, some real fine grit sandpaper. And all you want to do is make sure that the edges of this which probably aren't important on this particular one because it has the wire on it. So I wasn't real concerned with those. But the little dimple has to be cleaned, and you can see I cleaned that contact spot off. Then the other thing I cleaned up really well was this strip that makes the contact work down to the lower side of the button. And as you can see, there's another one of these little gizmos, and this one I cleaned up pretty nicely. So now it makes contact, and you just put it back together, just reverse the order, pretty self-explanatory, and snap the button cap on, and the horn works great. So I just thought I'd share that with you because it was a frustrating little problem that I had that was worrying me, concerning me. You really need to have a working horn, especially in states that have a inspection. Where I live, we don't, but a lot of states have inspections and they require the horn to work, as well as all the lights and the emergency brake and all the other safety equipment. So the horn, important, and that's how I fixed mine on my '93 C4. Hope this is helpful, and we'll see you next time.